Thank you, Fairfax County Library. And I'm excited that we're going to start filming these classes each week so you can enjoy them again and again. Tell your friends. And like this session, next session, I will have a theme, and I won't talk too much about that today. I want to focus today on the brain. As we've made our way up the skeletal ladder this session, we started with the feet, and last week we talked about the head and the neck. This week I want to focus a little bit on the head because that's where the brain resides, but we'll focus mostly on the brain. A nice, restive, restorative type practice that also will bring some movement and circulation to the body to bring a little bit more vitality to your whole overall system, as well as your mental clarity. So with that said, we will start in either legs up the wall or legs up the chair. And we've done legs up the chair quite a lot this past session. So perhaps you'd like to return to that position, or you can do legs up the wall. I will demonstrate both briefly. You can go off camera to do this as long as you're within earshot, and then you can come back to your space after this first pose. You're welcome to keep your socks on. I've lined up my bum right up against the wall and brought my legs up the wall. Very similar to legs up the chair, only in legs up the chair, of course, you've got angles to your legs. This isn't the best way to go from one to the other, but for brevity's sake, I'm going for it. So you could do legs up the chair. Make sure the feet have room. They're not constricted by the back of the chair or interrupted, and that the feet and the knees are same height. So you decide. Either pose has very similar effects. We've talked about how it rests the legs and the feet. It also brings relief to the back. It brings fresh oxygenated blood to the heart and the thyroid. It also brings fresh oxygenated blood to the brain. Heart doesn't have to work as hard to pump the blood back and forth from the feet to the heart. And the brain likes that lessened activity in the body. So you snuggle into the security of your prop, either the wall or your chair. Stabilize things in your body. Find a sense of symmetry and balance, because that's also very good for the brain. To have the two halves of the body similar. And if and when you're ready, close the eyes. Scan the body. And as you're ready, draw your awareness to your breathing. Take a few rounds of simple inhales and exhales. And you find a rhythm between the two. See if you can start to extend the exhale to be longer than the inhale. And we'll continue for the next few moments, focusing solely on the breath. Well, not solely. Primarily is a better word. And notice the effects that this quiet, focused breath has on the physicality of the body, the energies within the body. As the breath slows, the heart slows. And as they slow, then brain activity tends to slow down, become a little less murky. We'll stay here about 2 more minutes. Anytime you find your mind wandering, simply bring your awareness back to your breathing. You can also draw your awareness to how the breath is affecting the pose, your response to the pose, the body's subtle shifting into more comfort and ease. Perhaps you make a decision to change something to bring about more comfort and ease. Staying in the here and the now. What's going on right now in this body, in this space, in this breath, in this mind space. Let's go about 5 more breaths. See if you can take as long as possible, count out to number 5. Prolonging the breath process. Stalling. Attaining that goal of the number 5. What does that do for you? As you reach number 5, if you counted, let's start to deepen our inhales and deepen our exhales. Start to wriggle your fingers and your toes and your hands and your feet. Draw a little bit more awareness to your surroundings. And if your legs are up the wall, perhaps you'd like to bring the legs wide. And if your legs are on the chair, perhaps you'd like to extend legs for a few moments. And just bring some movement and energy to the legs, the feet, somehow, some way. Waking us up gently, preparing us for our next sequence or our next pose. If you're in legs up the wall, go ahead and come down from the wall and return to your space if you left your yoga space. And then scooch back on the wall, on the floor from the chair, or you can move the chair out of the way completely. And we'll make our way to lying on our mats with the knees bent, feet on the floor, and you're welcome to keep the socks on. And then we'll make our way into Apanasana. Draw the belly in as you bring the legs into the body and take hold of the legs somehow, some way. And start to rock your body from side to side. Your lower back, your sacrum, a little massage. And then come back to center with the rocking. And we will revisit that Apanasana Vinyasa. And we've done that many times in this class together, and I will go over it with you. Maybe it's new to you. So we start with Apanasana, knees bent, feet and knees pretty close together. And then we bring the knees and the feet as wide as we can. And then we bring them back together again. And as we do that, we lay the arms out to the sides. And then we bring the knees to one side in a twist. Then we come back up and twist to the other side. So the arms are there to brace us. And then as we come back, we bring the hands back to help us extend the legs up to the ceiling. Then we go wide with the feet and knees. Then we come back. And then we bend the knees back to where we started from. And that's the sequence. So you go wide with the knees bent, back to center. You twist from side to side. And then you extend and go wide and back together again and back to that center, to the beginning. And we'll add the breath with it. Exhale as you go wide. Inhale as you go center. Exhale as you go from side to side, twisting from side to side. Continue that breath to guide each and every movement. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and start all over again. And if you have to figure out your rhythm and your breath, you can always change it a little bit. You don't have to do it exactly as I said, as long as the breath is guiding the movement. And at some point, perhaps you can add twisting the head from side to side as the knees go from side to side. Put a little bit more into that twist, which is very good for the brain. Having the body in one direction as you look in the other. Talk more about that in a bit. Let's go about one more rotation. So we'll finish up the one you're on. And we'll do one more. Take your time. And we'll finish back in Apanasana and perhaps do some more rocking from side to side. And maybe spend some time bringing the legs a little bit closer to the body and maybe going a little bit wide with the feet and the knees. Just see how things have progressed after that Apanasana Vinyasa. And then let's make our way to table position. Come to one side and press up carefully and slowly but surely and quietly come to your table position. Less shocking for the physicality of the brain, the breath, the physicality of the body, I meant to say, and the brain. Take a few moments to organize and stabilize your table. Spread the fingers nice and wide and look down at the floor. Notice how the two thumbs are kind of pointing to each other as you spread the fingers wide. Draw an imaginary line between those two thumbs and look right in the middle. That helps you keep your head and neck in a nice neutral position. Take a few more breaths. See if you can lengthen your spine from the tailbone, up through the sacrum, up through your thoracic spine where the ribs are attached, all the way up into your neck and out through the crown of the head. But keep that face facing the floor. Restful for the neck. Soften your shoulders. And as you're ready, let's start another meditative movement sequence. We'll bring our hands forward a couple inches from that table position, and then come forward in a kneeling plank, and then press into the floor with the hands and the knees to bring yourself back and down, and you land in a puppy. And then we'll go back up to that kneeling plank and back into our puppy. We'll go back and forth and keep the head and neck still. So the head and the neck do not move. The head gets a different viewpoint because your body is moving back and forth. Keep it simple and keep it light and breezy on the head and the neck. Inhaling with one motion and exhaling with another. Focused on all of these movements, the structure, the breath. This is the beauty of these meditative vinyasa sequences, like the one we just did in this. Keeps us here in the now. A little bit more stimulating than holding a pose. Let's go 2 more rounds. In the second round, let's extend our exhale and bring it out with the mouth. Land in a child's pose. And as you bring the hips down, let the hands slide back. And maybe put the forearms on the floor and build your tripod chimes. Knees are wide, feet are together in the back, elbows are wide, hands in fists stacked in the middle, head on top. If you need a little review of your tripod chimes. Easier on the head, the neck, and the shoulders. Let's take 5 breaths here. Draw out, take as much time as you need and can with those 5 breaths. Try to extend the exhale to be longer than the inhale. Notice any subtle changes that are occurring in the body, ones that happen naturally or ones that you inspire. Staying in the here and the now. In this pose, in this breath, in this body. And as you're ready, take your time. If you need a couple more breaths to finish up your 5 breaths, or maybe you'd like to take a couple of extras, feel free to do so. And then quietly and gently come up to a seated position. And I recommend a blanket to sit upon. Find as much stability in your seat, because we'll be here for a few moments. fact, if you'd like to put blocks under your knees, you're welcome to do that. Take a few moments to stabilize seat, structure your body, belly drawn, heart lifted. Feel the ribs lift away from the hips. Let the shoulders relax, the neck lengthen, and the crown of the head reaching for the ceiling as you root into the floor. Attention to the structure and the feeling of holding this pose. What it does for you. So something as simple as sitting quietly can rest that brain. And this next sequence can definitely bring a sense of clarity to the brain. And it's a breathing sequence. It's called alternate nostril breathing. You may have done it in the yoga rooms before. I find it easiest to do, doesn't matter which hand you use. I'm left-handed, so I use my left hand. And I make a little U between my thumb and my forefinger. And I bring both of those fingers up to my nose. My thumb is for my left nostril, my forefinger is for my right nostril. And what we'll do is we'll make sure that we have a nice purposeful seat. That's very important. And close off your right nostril and breathe in through your left nostril. And then close the left nostril and breathe out through the right nostril. And then inhale through the right nostril. Close it with the finger. Exhale through the left nostril. Then inhale through the left nostril. Close it, open the right nostril, exhale through the right. And then once again, inhale through the right. Close it, exhale through the left. Let's do that about 10 more times. So if you need to change your seat at all, go for it. And when you're ready, stabilize that seat and do 10 of those. Maybe eyes open. Maybe they're closed. It's okay if you get confused and mess up every now and then. I'll give you a few more moments. Once you've done 10, take your hand back down and reconnect with a strong, purposeful seat. Maybe keep the eyes closed for a couple of breaths. And notice the effects. Let the effects of that alternate nostril breathing register with you. And as you're ready, glide the eyes back open. That's a great way to bring clarity back to the body, bring the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain in better communication. And also, just so you know, that our pituitary gland, which is in the brain, actually regulates the nostril breathing, which that happens naturally. You inhale through one side and exhale through one side for a couple of hours, and then your body changes, the brain changes and reverses that. And then you'll start to inhale more through the right and exhale through the left. So your body does that naturally. Your brain does it naturally. But when you can turn that mechanism on, it can have really positive and clarifying effects on the brain. The right side is sun energy. The left side is cooling moon energy. And we can talk about that more, but let's go ahead and do something else. So let's extend the legs out and shake them out. And let's do some leg tapping, going up and down the legs. Just stimulate some circulation and some energy in the legs. Working a lot more Korean and Chinese yoga and some Kundalini and yoga this next session. So we'll be doing a lot of different stuff like this. And our next little sequence or exercise, let's go ahead and bend one knee and bring one foot closer to you. Doesn't matter which one you start with. And if you have on a sock, take it off. Throw it across the room. And what we'll do now is do a little foot massage. And we'll just start to press about, squeeze about with both hands all over your foot, all over the soles, all over the sole, the insteps, the balls of the feet, the heels of the feet. And breathe deeply as you do this and maintain a nice purposeful seat as you do this. Feet have thousands of nerve endings and receptors in the feet, and the skin, excuse me. Feet are considered the second heart, creating a lot of circulation to the body as we put pressure on the feet. So this brings about circulation and vitality and energy. Then as you're ready, let's visit the pressure point for the brain, which is the third toe. So take your third toe and the thumb on one side and the index finger on the other side, and put some gentle pressure on the end of that toe. Sit nice and tall and breathe through it. It's the pressure point for the brain. And as you're ready, we can release that. And we'll switch legs and we'll do the same thing. Get our foot of that sock if you're wearing one. Spend a moment reconnecting with a good posture and then doing some foot massage. Make sure you're breathing deeply as you do this. It compounds the effects. Stimulating for the brain and the feet. Double duty here. So we're doing a lot more than just those two things. And then let's find the pressure point on this foot. Spend a few breaths pressing into that, breathing into it. We can release that, extend the leg out, shake them out. Let's do some more leg tapping. And come back to a neutral seat. Connect with a strong seated position. And you can have the legs extended, or if you like, you can bend the knees. Just stay here for a couple of breaths. Let the effects of that foot massage and pressure point exploration, let them take effect. Maybe you notice them, maybe you don't. Something to think about for perhaps future explorations. Okay, so now let's do some downward facing dogs. Come back into your table pose. And like last week, let's drop the head and look at the feet and the knees and curl those toes. And as you're ready, press into the floor with the toes and the feet, straighten the legs and lift the hips, but keep that head dropped. Look at your feet, look at your knees. Keep the head dropped, keep those neck muscles and the shoulder muscles relaxed. Stay here as long as you like. Put whatever movement you want into it, lifting up on the balls of the feet, bringing the heels up and down if you'd like. Maybe walking your dog, bending one knee and then the other. Whatever you want to do in your first dog, slowly but surely building it and coming down for a rest when you need it. And try to keep the head low and down the whole time as you come down and as you make your way into whatever rested position you want. And you can stay as long in your dog, or excuse me, in your rested position. And go up into another dog when you're ready. And see if your second dog is a little mightier, but still keep it pretty gentle by the head down. It can be mighty and gentle at the same time. Strong, but the head is down. This is an inversion. When your head is below the heart, that is considered an inversion. So things like headstands and handstands are inversions, and they can be pretty scary to do. But if you want to include those inversions, because they're very, very good for the brain, they bring fresh oxygenated blood, you can experiment a little bit more with your down dog and keep that head down. Maybe next semester we'll explore some more inversions. And if you need a rest, now's the time to take a rest. And then whenever you're ready, we can make our way up into a standing position and try to do so quietly and incrementally. For instance, I'm going to grab my blocks. You could come up by way of a dog and a forward fold, or you can use your blocks to give you some support to lift up, eventually make your way up. Make it slow, make it quiet, make it supported. Less jarring on the body, on the emotions, the breath, the brain, all of these things. And then once you're up, let's spend a few moments waking up our feet a little bit more. So we just talked about how there are all these nerve receptors and endings in our feet. Let's make good contact with the floor and our feet. Roll them around, and toggle back and forth, lift the toes. Connect with the earth. Notice what that effect has on you. And as you're ready, settle into a still mountain pose and weigh the feet evenly. The ball of the big and little toes and the heel of the foot in the back. Draw that energy up the legs. Knees are soft. Belly drawn. Heart lifted. Shoulders relaxed. Neck long. Crown of the head reaching for the ceiling. You continue to root in the floor into the earth. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Try to extend your exhale to be longer than your inhale. Notice what counting out 3 long breaths does for your pose, the stillness of your pose, the stillness of your brain and your mind, your thoughts. Keep it right here. Okay, so now, let's do that. Let's get our block. Have your block handy. Kind of jumped ahead. Have your block handy. We'll need that in a few moments. But now let's bring our feet a little wide and let's do a little bit of movement while we stand. I call these cast-offs, and your feet don't have to be super wide. They can just be a little wide just to give you a stronger base. Draw the belly in, lift your heart, and then lift your arms up. And then take your right hand and touch your left shoulder, and then bring it back. And then your left hand to your right shoulder and back. Then your right hand to left elbow and back. Left hand to right elbow and back. Now we'll touch the wrist. So we'll try to. You probably won't actually be able to reach it. You might need to turn your body a little bit. Left hand touches the right wrist and then back. And right hand to left hip and back. Left hand to right hip and back. Right hand to left knee. So you have to hinge forward to do these. And for the next one, we'll reach down for the ankle or the calf, whatever feels right for you. And then we'll go back to the very beginning. Making contact between the right side and the left side of the body. And doing a little bit of stretching and movement, loosening up the joints as we do this. Keep the feet evenly rooted the whole time. We'll do one more round. You need to bring the arms down and rest for a moment. You can do that. Return to the sequencing. Right meets left, left meets right. Sun meets moon. Moon meets sun. Finish back to the center. Bring the arms down, maybe do a few shoulder rolls. And then let's bring the hands on the hips and change the feet if you need to. And we'll do another sequence that also stimulates communication between the 2 halves of the brain, hip circles. So keep the knees soft and the feet evenly rooted the whole time. Bring the hips to the right, to the front, then to the left, and then back. Hips go right, front, left, back. So we're simply doing hip circles. Bring the right side of the body to the left and the left side of the body over to the right. Constantly crossing our body's natural midline, which also brings the 2 halves of the brain into better communication and brings a sense of clarity and focus, mental vitality. Let's make the circles a little smaller to find a good pause point and then switch directions. We'll do the same amount on the other side. So this is good for the brain, but also, as we've learned, good for the hips, good for the knees, good for the lower back, good for the breath, because we breathe through this sequence. Check in on those feet. Make sure they're evenly rooted the whole time. You want to go into the inside edges or the outside edges. You want to avoid that. Keeps us grounded and rooted. And the we'll do a few more rotations, make them smaller and smaller until you're finally back to the center. And then we can release the hands. And let's heel toe the feet a little bit closer in, so we're in a more natural, traditional mountain pose. And let's march it out a little, bend and straighten. And then reconnect with your mountain pose. Feet first. Go up that skeletal ladder all the way up to the crown of your head. I'll let you find the steps as you make your way up. Check in on all these points of your pose. When you're satisfied, take 3 let go breaths, meaning the exhales extend to be longer than the inhales. Okay, so I don't think we have time for this one motion I wanted to do. I'll tell you what, let's do it for just a moment. It's called block twists. We've done these, I think, before, but it's been a while. Let's bring our feet wide and put the block on the floor, preferably on the mat. It's better that you have both the feet and the block on the mat, and put the block in between the feet and in the front, and then put your hands on the block. So you're in a half forward fold here. Feet are wide, block in the middle there, hands on the block there. And then as you're ready, lift the right hand up and look up at it, and then bring it back down to the block. And then lift the left hand up and look at it and bring it back down. And we'll go back and forth. And it's hard for me to lift my arm up. So you can always just lift your elbow up. You could do cactus arms. That might make it easier for you. And we'll just go back and forth. Twisting from the right and back, and then twisting to the left and back. And if you're doing the cactus arm version, maybe after a couple of rounds of that, maybe it's easier for you to actually extend the arm up, because you have found that space that you need in the torso to accommodate that. And if you decide, nah, it's not going to work for me, you can always just go back to those cactus arms. And this is very stimulating for the left and the right sides of the brain. Also helps us strengthen the legs and the core muscles and work out any tensions in the shoulders and the hips. Keep the feet evenly rooted the whole time. That's very important. Let's do a couple more rounds, so we don't cave to the inside edges of the feet nor the outside in any time. You can go slower than I am. You can take a rest whenever you need to. I should have said that earlier, but that goes without saying with any of our sequences. So now we're back to the center and reconnect with those strong feet. Let the head drop and relax the neck muscles and keep the connection between the feet and the block and the hands. Take a few breaths here. And then maybe heel toe the feet in when you're ready to make your rise up. Bend the knees, put the hands on the hips, and keep your chest and your heart open as you lift back up. So maybe you lift up with those arms overhead. That's why we do that, to keep that expansion in our chest. But as you get more into your yoga, maybe you don't have to lift the arms to find that expansion in your chest. Because sometimes your shoulders and your neck might need a little break from that. Make our way back to mountain, march it out, bend and straighten. Reconnect with your mountain from the feet up. You know you've got a good, strong mountain with purpose, but a sense of release into it. Take 3 of those let go breaths, extending your exhale to be longer than your inhale. What effect does it have on your mountain pose? Spend a lot of time in mountain today. It's, I think, one of the most challenging yoga poses there is. I've said that before. It's hard to stay still. And it's hard to avoid, oh, come on, let's get on with it. It's hard to avoid those moments. But if you can keep your mind with the physicality and the energy of the body, it can help you kind of simplify negative thoughts in the brain. Okay, so now let's make our way back down to the floor. And just put the blocks out of the way. We'll need one block. And take your time, like as you came up, build your descent. So come down with blocks, come down with ease, maybe be on the knees for a few moments, and hands and knees, and then eventually we'll lie on our back. So you go from a table to a seated position. And then when you're ready, lie back. And as we lie back, we'll have the knees bent, feet on the floor, getting ready for a bridge sequence. We're going to keep it simple and quiet. We'll use our block. And if you don't have a block, you can always use a blanket. We talked about that in the past, where you can build a block out of a blanket. And we'll come into a supported bridge pose. So something under the bum, under the sacrum, as you lift those hips up, either your block or your stacked blanket. Should have just let that go. No woulda, shoulda, coulda. Okay, settle into your supported bridge pose. And this again is an inversion because your head is lower than your heart. So even though this is not as challenging as a headstand or a handstand, which can be extremely beneficial for the brain, this is also giving similar effects. Focus on your breathing. Notice the inhales and notice the exhales. Find that rhythm of breath, that cadence of breath events, and see if you might once again extend your exhale to be longer than your inhale. Notice the effects of extending your exhale. Not just the breath in the body, but your thoughts and your emotions, ideas going through your head. Are those ideas related to the here and the now? Because that's what's going to help you rest your brain. Staying here. And if you would like, you're welcome to turn your supported bridge into a supported shoulder. You can bring the feet off the floor and extend the legs up to the ceiling. This is very similar to legs up the wall, where many of us started in the beginning. It's also similar to legs up the chair. You can even kind of pretend you're in legs up the chair here in your supported shoulder stand. Also an inversion. Heart doesn't have to work as hard to pump the blood through the body. You can put some energy to the feet, stimulating more circulation. All very restful and clarifying for the brain. Perhaps you'd like to bring the feet wide if you're in your supported shoulder stand. Spend these last few moments making some changes with the legs and the feet, keeping it gentle and soft, and keeping it balanced and even. Things as balanced as possible at this point. If you lifted the legs up, over the next few breaths, make your way back down, step by step, bit by bit, slowly but surely, back down to your supported bridge. If you're still in supported bridge, we'll take just a few more breaths here. Reconnect with the stability and structure of the pose. Reconnect with your breath. And take 3 let go breaths, extending your exhale to be longer than your inhale. Really pay attention to what those 3 let go breaths do. Physically, energetically, but especially mindfully. Which can include the emotions, the intellect, your perceptions. When you finish those 3 breaths, you take a couple more extras. Take your time to get rid of your block. Return to bridge prep. And if you'd like to do one more pose before we settle into Shavasana, you're welcome to do that. So perhaps you'd like to return to Apanasana. Maybe you'd like to do a happy baby. Just try to keep it small, smooth, gentle, quiet, and symmetrical. Keeping the body balanced these last few moments. Keeps the mind balanced. We've worked so hard on finding balance between the 2 halves of our brain. Whenever you're ready, settle into your Shavasana. Perhaps you'd like a blanket under your knees. And because we have a few extra minutes for our Shavasana, I'll mention how each practice we finish lying on our back and then settle right into Shavasana. So it's much better for your brain to not sit up and get something for your Shavasana and then lie back down. Try to stay lying down for the rest of the practice each week. So that means, if you want your socks, they should be nearby. And you can put them on without sitting up. It's a good way to use the strength of your belly, bringing the legs to you. It's just one example. Wriggle in. Settle into the weight of your body, shape of your body. When you're ready, draw your awareness to the energy within the body. Start with the breath. Focus on your breath. It's simple. Watch the inhales and watch the exhales. Once you're ready, slowly begin to deepen your inhales and lengthen your exhales. Slowly start to bring a little bit of movement to the body. That's why we tell you, start with your fingers, your toes, hands and your feet, the smaller extremities, making your way to the larger extremities, bit by bit. Draw the belly in before you bring the arms overhead if you do that. Be aware of these good habits to keep you protected and safe. Also helps keep you in the here and the now. And try to use the limbs of the body to bring you back up. Reconnect with a good strong seat. Belly drawn, heart lifted, shoulders relaxed. On a nice tall spine. Hands on the knees. And take your hands and lift them and touch your thumb and your ring finger on your left hand. Or excuse me, your thumb and your middle finger on the left hand. And no, I'm sorry, your thumb and your ring finger on the left and the thumb and the middle finger on the right. So thumb and the ring finger on the left, thumb and the middle finger on the right. And look at your two hands. They're different, but they're the same. And this is called the Jnana Vaya Mudra. It helps bring a sense of balance. And once you have found that, put them again on the knees. Reconnect with a good strong seat. And reconnect with your breath. And notice the balancing effects that holding this mudra can give the brain. doing something different, but they're also the same in many ways. As you're ready, release that mudra and bring the hands together in the heart. Right meets left in front of the heart. Take a few breaths here. And as you're ready, namaste. Thank you so much for that practice. Hope you feel a little bit more balanced, yet energized, a little more vitality. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here each week. We'll be here next week. We'll do a little review next week of this session.